the secret pact that doomed Europe, new declassified files. The pact that shocked the world. It's late August 1939. In London, telephones buzz through the night. Diplomats in grey suits gather around a wireless set, frozen. The unimaginable has just been confirmed. Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin have signed a non-aggression pact. Two sworn enemies, united by paper. For the men at the Foreign Office, it feels like the laws of politics have been suspended. France, on alert but exhausted after Munich, gets the same message minutes later. The sense of disbelief is instant and overwhelming. Germany's greatest ideological foe has suddenly become its partner, and every calculation Britain and France had made to contain the Nazis collapses in a single announcement. Inside the corridors of Whitehall, maps of Europe are spread open. Secretaries rush to verify cables from Berlin and Moscow. Chamberlain's advisors whisper the same question: what's really in that deal? The official communiqué released from Moscow speaks only of peace, mutual respect, and a promise of non-aggression. But seasoned diplomats can sense something deeper, something darker, hiding beneath those polite words. A stunned silence settles over the room before the first words break it. Poland's finished. Across Paris, French newspapers rush to print extra editions. The headlines come out blunt and panicked. Hitler and Stalin join hands. For years, the Soviets had been courted as a possible balance against German expansion. Now, with a single handshake under the chandeliers of the Kremlin, that dream has crumbled. Poland, trapped between the two most ruthless powers in Europe, suddenly faces the nightmare of encirclement. To the outside world, it looks like diplomacy's last line of defense has failed. To insiders, it's worse, a betrayal of logic itself. Communists and fascists, two systems built on mutual hatred, now promising friendship. Can this be real? One British officer scribbles in his notes for the evening briefing. It is, and the implications are catastrophic. Rewind a few weeks, and the atmosphere across Europe was already electric. The Munich Agreement had brought only a year of uneasy calm. Hitler had devoured Czechoslovakia, his eyes now turned toward Poland. The Western Allies, haunted by memories of the Great War, hesitated yet again. In Moscow, Stalin watched these failures and drew one conclusion: he couldn't trust the West to stop Germany. For months, negotiators from Britain and France had tried to pull the Soviet Union into an alliance, but talks moved painfully slow. Distrust choked every discussion. Soviet generals demanded passage through Poland. Polish diplomats refused. Western politicians stalled, promising consultations rather than commitments. And in the background, German envoys whispered to Moscow that Berlin could offer something far more appealing: a guarantee of peace on the Soviet border and a free hand in Eastern Europe. By August, negotiations with the West had effectively died. Stalin had stopped sending senior officials to the meetings. Then word spread quietly through the diplomatic network. A German foreign minister was scheduled to arrive in Moscow for urgent discussions. Some intelligence officers flagged it as a potential shift in Soviet policy. Their memos reached London but were brushed aside, too outlandish to be true. Days later, the unimaginable became real. Joachim von Ribbentrop stepped off a plane beneath the Kremlin's watchtowers, carrying a draft agreement approved personally by Hitler. That night, beneath portraits of Lenin and Tsarist generals alike, signatures were placed on the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Cameras were banned. Soviet newspapers printed smiling photographs of Ribbentrop and Molotov exchanging firm handshakes. Behind those smiles, a separate sheet of paper was sealed away, a secret protocol that divided the lands of Eastern Europe like spoils in a game of empire. By dawn on August 24, it wasn't just another treaty. It was the death warrant for interwar diplomacy. Western governments weren't sure what the hidden clause said, but they felt its weight instantly. Within days, Hitler would unleash his armies on Poland, certain that the Red Army wouldn't stand in his way. The headlines told the sanitized story, a pact of peace, but every diplomat in Europe could see what it truly was, a mask for conquest. The alliance no one believed possible had been born, and with it, the countdown to war had begun. The fragile balance before the pact. Spring 1939, Europe stands on a knife's edge. The smoke from Munich hasn't even cleared, yet another storm is building. Britain's Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain still clings to his hope that appeasement might keep peace intact, a fragile optimism in a continent preparing for war. The ink from the Munich Agreement, which handed Czechoslovakia to Hitler, has barely dried. Hitler has already broken every promise. His forces march into Prague, and the illusion of his limited demands evaporates overnight. But inside Downing Street, the strategy remains the same. Avoid direct confrontation, buy time, and pray that diplomacy still holds sway. Meanwhile in Moscow, Joseph Stalin watches events unfold with cold precision. He's learned his lesson from Munich. Western democracies will betray smaller nations if it buys them peace. The Soviets had offered help to Czechoslovakia, but no Western power backed them. Now Berlin's ambitions are clear, and Stalin knows the Red Army isn't ready for a fight. The recent purges have gutted his officer corps. Over half his senior commanders have been arrested or executed. Despite his outward confidence, Stalin's greatest fear is isolation. His diplomats struggle to find a balance, some kind of security arrangement that will keep Hitler and the West both at bay. By early 1939, British and French negotiators begin discussing a possible alliance with the Soviet Union. On paper, it looks promising. Combine Western industrial strength with Soviet manpower, and Germany could be contained. But mutual suspicion poisons every exchange. Stalin demands the right to move Soviet troops through Poland if Germany attacks. The Poles flatly refuse, terrified that once the Red Army enters, it will never leave. The French hesitate to override Warsaw's objections, and the British, still haunted by their anti-communist fear, avoid any concrete military commitments. Months pass, and the meetings drag on. Every delay deepens Stalin's distrust. In Berlin, Hitler senses the opportunity. His generals remind him that a two-front war had doomed Germany in 1918. This time, they must avoid that at any cost. If Russia could be neutralized, or better yet, briefly befriended, Hitler could strike westward without fear. His foreign minister, Joachim von Ribbentrop, begins quietly exploring the idea of reaching out to Moscow. In private sessions with the Führer, he argues that Stalin can be dealt with as a partner of convenience. Ideology, Ribbentrop suggests, is secondary to strategy. Hitler agrees. Plans for conquest can wait until after Poland is crushed. In the Warsaw Foreign Ministry, officials receive scattered reports that German and Soviet intermediaries have renewed contact. They don't want to believe them. Since 1932, Poland has maintained non-aggression pacts with both powers, trusting neither, but hoping those documents might buy time. President Ignacy Masicki and Foreign Minister Joseph Beck face impossible choices. They're surrounded by powers far stronger than their own, and their own allies, Britain and France, remain hesitant to commit troops east of the Rhine. Beck insists Poland will not yield territory or sovereignty, but in his heart, he knows what that means. If war breaks out, Poland will fight alone. Inside British intelligence circles, analysts pick up scraps of diplomatic chatter suggesting that Moscow is softening toward Berlin. Station X in Warsaw intercepts coded commercial messages from Germany to the Soviet trade delegation. At first, the clues seem insignificant, standard negotiations about grain prices and oil exports. But a few observers suspect a deeper agenda. A report dated August 14 warns of increased likelihood of a non-aggression arrangement between the Reich and the USSR. It lands on a mid-level desk in the Foreign Office. No urgency attached. No one wants to admit what the pattern implies. To understand the atmosphere, you have to picture that summer. Governments straining to read each other's moves, every embassy sending contradictory reports. In Paris, Foreign Minister Georges Bonnet tells colleagues that war can still be prevented. In London, Chamberlain's cabinet argues endlessly about guarantees to Poland that have no real military backing. The Royal Navy is under orders to mobilize discreetly, while RAF squadrons begin redeployments along the coast. Everyone senses that Europe's balance is collapsing, yet few grasp how soon the fall will come. At the same moment in the Kremlin, the tone shifts. Stalin replaces cautious rhetoric with deliberate silence. Instead of denouncing German aggression, Soviet newspapers lower their criticism of Berlin. Diplomatic receptions once reserved for Western representatives now welcome German officials. The newspapers call it normalizing relations. To outside observers, it's puzzling. Inside Stalin's mind, it's strategy. He's weighing two offers, one from the West that promises words, another from Germany that promises territory. Meanwhile, on the German side, preparations intensify for the invasion of Poland. Wehrmacht officers mark railway junctions and river crossings on secret maps. The timing depends on one question: will the Soviets interfere? Ribbentrop sends signals to Moscow through back channels, offering economic incentives and a guarantee of neutrality. He claims Germany recognizes Soviet interests in the Baltics and Bessarabia. Such phrases carry meaning, implicit territorial rights. Stalin listens. The idea of carving Eastern Europe into zones of influence isn't new. Imperial powers had done it for centuries, but the prospect of doing it between Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, a collision of two totalitarian empires, defies moral comprehension. To Stalin, though, morality is irrelevant. He's convinced the West hopes to push Hitler eastward, letting the fascists and communists destroy each other while London stays safe behind the Channel. They want to trick us into fighting their war, he tells Molotov, his foreign minister. Let them bleed first. By mid-August, the Western mission to Moscow is all but finished. The French delegates fly home empty-handed, while the British envoys remain stuck waiting for signatures that never come. Their instructions from London are timid, filled with vague assurances, but no military timetable. Stalin notices. When the talks with the West drag into another week without progress, he sends Molotov a blunt order: open the door to Berlin. Inside the Soviet Foreign Ministry, the mood becomes electric. Messages coded in diplomatic cipher fly between Moscow and Berlin. On August 19, Germany and the USSR sign a commercial agreement, the perfect cover for deeper negotiations. Grain, oil, and steel quotas fill the official documents, but the real discussion is about what comes next. Molotov telegraphs Ribbentrop. Negotiations possible at the highest level. Time is short. The following day, British intelligence intercepts radio chatter between Berlin and Moscow, hinting at an upcoming diplomatic visit. A few officers recognize the risk. They send an urgent note to Whitehall warning that Hitler may try to secure Stalin's neutrality. The memo arrives, but gets buried under a pile of reports labeled speculative. Chamberlain's cabinet doesn't want another alarmist theory the week before recess. In hindsight, that single dismissal marks the last missed chance to counter what's coming. As Europe moves through its final days of false peace, everything hangs on Stalin's decision. Will he side with the Western Allies, believing their pledges, or gamble on a temporary truce with Nazi Germany? For him, the answer lies in calculation, not ideology. The Soviets have suffered humiliation since Munich. Now, Stalin intends to be the one dealing humiliation back. He tells his close circle that Russia must never fight on two fronts again. If a written guarantee from Hitler can buy 18 months of breathing room, so be it. And so, Europe balances on a narrow ridge, pretending diplomacy still matters while the new war machinery roars to life beneath the surface. Poland waits in nervous silence, France debates in denial, and Britain preaches resilience it doesn't yet feel. The next move belongs to Moscow. In a matter of days, that move will make history. Inside the negotiations, Moscow, August 1939. August 23, 1939. A German plane descends toward Moscow under grey, heavy sky. On board sits Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop, clutching two documents: Hitler's personal authorization for a non-aggression pact and a second paper far more dangerous, a secret map dividing the east of Europe. As the wheels touch the tarmac, Soviet officers in formal coats stand waiting, their faces unreadable. The order from Stalin is clear: treat the Germans like honored guests. At the Kremlin, preparations run with military precision. Flowers line the hallways, tables are set with crystal, and translators rehearse key phrases so not a syllable is lost in misinterpretation. Beneath the glitter, tension crackles. Everyone in the building knows this is no normal diplomatic visit. It's a meeting between two predators calculating how to share the hunt. When Ribbentrop steps inside, Vyacheslav Molotov greets him with a stiff handshake. The contrast couldn't be sharper. Ribbentrop, polished and fanatically convinced of Nazi destiny. Molotov, cautious, bureaucratic, playing the part of loyal executor to Stalin's will. Small talk fills the first minutes. Trade, mutual respect, vague remarks about European peace. Then the real conversation begins. Stalin joins them shortly after midnight. He doesn't waste words. He knows Ribbentrop has come with an offer that could transform his position overnight. Germany desires friendship, the German begins, sliding his case onto the table. He describes the pact as purely defensive, a guarantee that neither side will attack the other. Stalin nods, expression fixed, revealing nothing. After a pause, he asks the question that matters. What about Poland? That's the signal. Molotov unrolls a map of Eastern Europe. Lines are drawn, pencils tracing borders that millions of people don't yet know will decide their fate. The Germans propose a division, Poland split along the Neo, Vistula, and San rivers. The Baltic states fall under Soviet interest, except for Lithuania, which Germany claims due to its proximity to East Prussia. Stalin studies the boundaries like a man reviewing blueprints, not human lives. He makes a few adjustments, pushing the Soviet lines slightly westward toward the Curzon frontier. For strategic depth, he says calmly. Ribbentrop hesitates, knowing Hitler expects quick agreement, then nods. Within hours, they reach understanding. The Soviet Union gains influence over Estonia, Latvia, Finland, and parts of Romania. Germany takes western Poland and Lithuania. What's left of Poland, barely a corridor of land, is marked for destruction. The secret protocol is typed up immediately, 2 copies prepared. Both men sign without ceremony. Outside, the Kremlin bells mark the midnight hour. Inside, Europe's map has just been rewritten in silence. Ribbentrop's mission, however, isn't just about signatures. He must also convince Stalin that Berlin's intentions are trustworthy. So he offers flattery. He praises Soviet discipline, calls Stalin the leader who understands the world's realities. Molotov responds with equal caution. If Germany guarantees Soviet security, we see no obstacle to closer cooperation. Beneath the politeness, each side measures the other's weakness. For Stalin, the decision is cold arithmetic. The Red Army, still recovering from the purges, isn't ready for a major war. His intelligence reports describe Germany's rearmament in chilling detail: modern tanks, coordinated air tactics, formidable logistics. He's convinced he needs at least another 2 years before the USSR can face Germany directly. A pact with Hitler will buy that time. It's a wager that Germany will fight the West first, giving the Soviets a window to prepare. If Hitler keeps his word, the USSR gains territory. If he doesn't, Stalin at least pushes his frontier westward, giving him distance to fight on Soviet terms. Ribbentrop reads the confidence wrong. He believes Stalin's enthusiasm is genuine, that the Soviets admire Nazi efficiency. He sends coded telegrams to Berlin the very night, claiming the meeting proceeded in a spirit of mutual understanding. Hitler receives the message and celebrates. The pact means Poland can now be invaded without fear of a Soviet response. His generals begin finalizing the timetable for September 1. Back in Moscow, the negotiations move to logistics. Economic clauses are added. The Soviets will provide grain, oil, and metals to Germany. Germany will supply machinery and weapons technology. It's the start of a transactional relationship built entirely on deceit. The room smells of tobacco and exhaustion. Translators yawn into their sleeves as the documents are copied in duplicate. Stalin pours champagne, famously toasting to the future of German-Soviet friendship. Ribbentrop raises his glass, beaming. The interpreter hesitates, translating the words. Friendship sounds absurd even here, but Stalin waves him on. Say it exactly as spoken. As dawn approaches, Ribbentrop's aides prepare to depart. The signed documents are locked in a briefcase with crimson wax seals. Outside, reporters gather, unaware of what's really been agreed. The official statement released to the press mentions only a non-aggression treaty aimed at ensuring peace between the Soviet Union and Germany. No one outside the Kremlin sees the secret annex, though whispers spread almost instantly among Western attachés. One rumor claims Poland will be partitioned. Another insists it's just a trade arrangement. Moscow denies all of them. At 8 in the morning, the Germans leave the Kremlin for a tour of the city. Ribbentrop, still elated, sends one more cable to Berlin claiming Stalin laughed at Western diplomacy, calling it worthless chatter. The remark flatters Hitler immensely. He orders Ribbentrop to offer the Soviets a congratulatory note of friendship from himself personally. Inside the Kremlin's private study, after the Germans depart, Stalin sits with Molotov reviewing the maps again. The bourgeois will fight among themselves, he says quietly. We'll come in later to collect. Molotov agrees, though uneasily. He knows the implications. Two totalitarian empires have just formalized a marriage of convenience built on lies. Neither intends to keep it for long. Later that evening, as radio operators relay the public news, the world learns only half the story. The German broadcast celebrates a new era of cooperation. Soviet media echo the phrasing, describing the event as an act of peace-loving states. But diplomats from the Baltic embassies in Moscow understand its real meaning instantly. They begin wiring home-coded warnings. Prepare for territorial adjustments. Their governments can't believe it. They've signed treaties with the USSR promising mutual respect. Within months, those promises will vanish. The secrecy is nearly perfect. Only a handful of people in Moscow know that a supplemental agreement exists. The document is hidden in an envelope marked Special File Number 1, locked in Stalin's personal archive. Years later, even Soviet historians will deny its existence, calling it a Western fabrication. Yet for now, Stalin is confident no truth will leak. To him, deception is just another weapon. The photo distributed that day shows smiling men standing under the Kremlin chandelier. Ribbentrop in his immaculate uniform, Molotov with his stoic smirk, Stalin oddly relaxed between them. The image is meant to project stability. In reality, it captures the world seconds before collapse. By the time Ribbentrop's aircraft lifts off from Moscow, the ink is dry and history set in motion. Stalin's immediate order to his generals is short and precise. Avoid provocations. Prepare for potential reorganization of our western frontier. In Berlin, Hitler reads the confirmation aloud to his staff, declaring, "Now Poland is ours." Neither dictator knows it yet, but they've just built an alliance destined to self-destruct. For the moment, both believe they've outsmarted the other. Beneath the marble halls of the Kremlin, the lamps flicker out, leaving behind the scent of smoke and champagne, and the quiet echo of a deal that has just sealed Europe's fate.